Let's return the witness. Pardon? Yes. Yes, sir. Did y'all work out the stipulation?
Yes, we did.
Good.
Issue with the state, of course, is limiting the use of this witness's testimony. However, there is an issue where he would certainly be subject to recall by the defense. It's my understanding that he lives out of state. I'm not certain how the state, whether he came on his own expense, and we'd like to inquire as to that and the possibility of getting him back here to testify, because that may be a problem at a later date, especially considering the indigency status of Miss Anthony and how.
What are you asking?
Well, first of all, I'd like to be able to resolve the issue here with the witness being here, and ask that this witness be taken out of turn for the purposes of that, to prevent him from having to come back.
And what is the position of the state of Florida?
Your Honor, Mr. Baez wants to go into an inquiry regarding what I think he wants to do. I don't think the state has any objection to him doing that this afternoon.
Okay, then issue's resolved.
Do that.
I did.
Thank you, Judge.
The stipulation, have y'all agreed on the language?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You want to read it, Mr. George?
No objection to reading.
The stipulation reads as follows. The bruise on Kelly's face in State's Exhibit that has not been entered at this time. The January 2008 photo was not the result of any neglect or child abuse on the part of any person. The parties agreed to this fact, and it should be considered as true during your deliberations. It's signed by Mr. George, Mr. Baez, and Miss Anthony. Ms. Anthony, do you concur with that stipulation, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, Mr. George, when do y'all want me to read it? Just prior to you introducing it, or after you introduce it and prior to publishing it?
Probably after it's published, Your Honor.
Mr. Baez?
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
He said he wants to read it after the photograph has been published. My question was, when did you want it read?
I don't think it makes a difference before or after, so we'll ask after it's on.
Okay.
And, Your Honor, for
Which one now? You say as soon as it's introduced and you said after.
Immediately after it's introduced, we would ask that the court read it.
Okay, then I will read it prior to it being published, okay?
And Your Honor, that's fine, Judge. That is exhibit right now. That is Exhibit B.
Okay, let's bring the jury.
I'll try to be clear. What we would like is, as soon as it's published to the jury, we would ask that the court instruct the jury about that specific instruction at that time.
Okay.
Apologies for not being clear.
No, there's no problem. Let's return the jury.
Please be seated.
The state recognize the presence of jury?
It does.
Does the defense? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Okay.
may I continue?
Just a second.
Yes, sir.
The Lightning game is not carried here, but I am trying to get it taped to get to you, okay? I should know by tomorrow whether or not I will be able to achieve that. The other thing that was mentioned, that was a miscommunication with the hotel staff. So that should be taken care of. And the other thing, that will be arranged as I said. Okay? All right. Mr. George, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Morales.
Good afternoon.
When we first started talking, we had begun to reference a picture. Do you recall that?
The picture in my previous room?
That you saw earlier this morning?
Yep. Yes, I do recall.
You took a few pictures of the defendant and Kaylee during the time that you dated. Is that correct?
I did.
At some point after July 16th of 2008, did you sell those pictures?
I did.
Who did you sell them to?
The Globe magazine.
Did you approach them or did they approach you?
They approached me.
Do you recall about when this was?
I'd say August 2008.
And did you sell the pictures that you had to the Globe?
I did.
And how much money did you receive for those pictures?
The total was about $4,000.
Did you license or sell those pictures to anybody else?
No, I did not.
May we have? All right, sir. Do you see what's been previously marked for Exhibit B on your screen?
Exhibit E?
Well, do you have a picture on your screen, sir?
I do.
All right. Is this the same picture that we looked at earlier this morning?
It is?
And that you've identified as being taken at your townhouse?
Correct, yes.
And that's a picture of the defendant and Kaylee Anthony in your room.
It is.
And I believe you had indicated earlier that that is a fair and accurate representation of what they both look like in the winter, spring of 2008. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, the State would move what's been previously marked for identification B into evidence as the State's next in line.
What says the defense?
No objection, subject to our previous motions. No objections, only subject to our previous motion.
That would be admitted as the State's next number exhibit, numbered. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to read you a stipulation, and the photograph will be published to you. And you may be able to see it, some of you may not. Stipulation between the State of Florida and the defendant. The bruise on Kaylee's face in State's exhibit number 12. The January 2008 photo was not the result of any neglect or child abuse on part of any person. The parties agree to this fact, and it should be considered as true during your deliberations. You may proceed and publish the photograph to the jury.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. All right, sir. At this time, let me now show you what's been previously marked for identification C. Again, sir, do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
And can you tell us what that is a photograph of?
It's a picture of Casey and Kaylee sitting on the couch in the same townhome as the other picture was taken.
Did you take that photograph?
I did.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of what Casey Anthony and Kaylee Anthony looked like in the spring of 2008?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification C into evidence as the state's next in line, which I believe is number 13.
What says the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
You received an evidence as states numbered. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish this photograph to the jury?
You may publish.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness at this time.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, can you see me at all behind that screen?
I can, yes.
Okay. You started dating Casey in February 2008?
Yes.
And how long did you date for?
Until the middle of April 2008.
Okay. I'd like to show you a photograph. Can you see that photograph?
No. Oh, there it is. Yes.
Okay. You know what that photograph is, right?
I do.
And this was a photograph that you posted on your MySpace?
It is.
Okay. And this was posted on your MySpace around the time you were dating Casey?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate representation of the photograph that you posted on your MySpace?
Yes.
Unless there's any objection, Judge, we would like to publish this at this time to the jury. And, well, excuse me, admit it into evidence at this time.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor. No objection.
The clerk needs to see the photograph so she'll know what exhibit number it is. She sort of disadvantaged.
We have a hard copy, or would it be on the...
Madam Clerk.
No.
Okay, she needs the photograph, folks. That's going to be the actual photograph you enter in evidence because it looks a little different there as opposed to what's there. Do you have the original?
We have an original we'd like to print out, Judge.
Okay, make sure you get me the original.
Yes, sir.
That'll be a provisional one until I get the original, put a note on it.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk. There being no objections, Madam Clerk, give us the identification number and the number that it goes into evidence under.
May I publish it to the
Just a
jury?
second.
Thank you.
You may publish, Mr. Baines.
I'm not certain if they can see it or not. Okay.
Members of the jury, can you see it? All right.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that this photograph was posted on your MySpace when you were still dating Casey. That would also include March 2008.
That was the month it was posted?
No, the month that you were,
We were
time
dating
period
in
that you were dating
2008,
Casey.
yes.
Just a second. Make sure that you wait till you finish asking the question before you answer, so the court reporter will be able to take both of you down. She can't take you down when both of you are talking. So, question, Mr. Baez?
Yes, that you were dating Casey in March 2008, were you not?
I was.
And you posted this on your MySpace during the time period that you were dating Casey.
I believe so.
Okay. You don't recall the exact date, though, do you?
No, I don't.
Why did you post this on your MySpace?
It was just a joke. I found it humorous at the time.
Did you have conversations with Casey about this photograph?
No, I did not.
Did you ever tell Casey that... Did you ever mention chloroform to Casey?
No, not that I recall.
Now, you mentioned that you had sold photographs to the Globe magazine
Yes.
and that they had approached you.
Correct.
And did you shut off or attempt to not communicate with any members of the media?
Up until that point, yeah, I had not spoken with any media.
But when the Globe came knocking with $4,000, it was okay to talk to them?
Yes.
And the reason that they wanted to talk to you and to get photographs from you is because you dated Casey.
That's, from my understanding, yes.
And because you had photographs of Casey and her little daughter Kaylee.
Yes.
And those were for sale from you.
I had sold them, yes.
Now, you testified under direct examination that Casey and Kaylee would sleep with you 3 to 4 nights a week.
While we were dating, yep, that is correct.
While you were dating.
Mm-hmm.
And that 3 to 4 nights a week, Kaylee would sleep in between you and Casey.
No, Casey would sleep in the middle.
I'm sorry?
Casey would sleep in between myself and Kaylee.
Okay. Do you, and I would refer counsel to Bates page 1291.
Is that a statement, a deposition, or what?
Statement.
Okay.
A statement to law enforcement, Corporal Edwards Rivera and Deputy Rivera. Do you recall giving a statement to law enforcement on July 25th of 2008, sir?
Yes.
And did you make the statement? There was one time that I can remember while we were dating that she actually started the night.
Need to object to the and ask that counsel properly impeach, or at least ask whether or not he recalls giving being asked a specific question and not remembering the answer that he gave, rather than having the counsel testify and just reading a transcript.
I think there was a statement made. I asked him about the statement, and I am now referring to the statement that would be inconsistent with the answer that he gave under testimony. There's no requirement under prior inconsistent statements that you read a question.
Still improper impeachment.
Read him the question.
Do you remember being asked, if I had asked you if she had ever spent the night at your house without Kaylee, and you had said, do you remember or do you recall giving the answer? There was one time that I can remember while we were dating that she actually started the night. They were both in my bed.
Yes.
And is that a more accurate representation of what you actually remembered in July of 2008 as opposed to today in 2011?
If that night they both were in my bed when we went to sleep?
Yes. That fact.
Yes.
Okay. Now, aside from you posting the photograph of chloroform on your MySpace and selling photographs of Kaylee to the Globe magazine, is there anything that you can tell this jury that would help shed light on what happened to Kaylee on June 16, 2008?
To the form of the question.
Sustained.
Is there anything that you can testify that you witnessed on June 16, 2008?
In regards to Casey, no.
No further questions. I actually do have one or two other questions, if I may.
You may.
Now, you would never have, or you would never be intimate with Kaylee in the bed, would you? Or did you?
I don't believe so, no.
And MySpace is a common method that you and all of your friends communicated with back in 2008, is it not?
Yes.
No further questions.
Mr. George?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Morales, during this time period, how many photographs or pictures do you estimate you may have uploaded into your MySpace account?
I don't remember. I don't think I've uploaded too many into MySpace.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you really have any idea when you uploaded the picture that Mr. Baez showed you?
Did I have, excuse me?
Do you have any idea when you actually uploaded that picture into your
date?
MySpace? What?
The date?
Yeah.
No, I don't know the date.
Do you have any idea the year?
I believe it was early 2008.
Do you know what chloroform is?
I know what it's used for. It's a chemical that I guess puts people to sleep if they inhale it.
Did you ever conduct any searches of chloroform on the defendant's computer
I did not.
at any time?
Nope.
Mr. Baez asked you some questions about an interview you gave with law enforcement on July 25th of 2009. He asked you a specific question about if she had spent the night without Kaylee, and you said there was one time that I can remember. Do you recall that interview?
Yes.
Do you recall that the officer or Detective Edwards was referring you to one particular night, in this case June 9th of 2008?
Yes, he and I were both referring to one night.
On June 9th of 2008, you testified previously that the defendant and Casey...
Overrule at this point. Let him finish asking the question. Sir, do not answer the question until I tell you to answer the question. Continue, Mr. George.
Did Casey and Kaylee Anthony stay with you on June 9th of 2008?
Is there objection to that question?
No, sir.
You may answer the question, sir.
Yes.
When they stayed over with you on June 9th, going into the morning of June 10th of 2008, did both Casey, Anthony, and Kaylee sleep in the same bed with you?
They did.
And is that the question that you were being asked by Detective Edwards?
It was not in regards to that night, no.
I'm sorry?
The question Detective Edwards was asking me was not in regards to the night of June 9th.
Okay. What night was he asking you about?
I couldn't recall the date of the night. It was just the only time I woke up when Kaylee was not in the bed with us, with myself and Casey.
Repeat your answer, sir.
I was answering the detective's question about a night. I did not recall the date, but it was the only morning I had woken up with Casey in the bed and Kaylee was not there.
Correct. If you were to look at the transcript, would that refresh your recollection?
Sure. I guess so.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
For court and counsel, I'm referring to page 1290, line 8, to page 1291, line 21. May I approach?
You may.
All right, Mr. Morales, did you get a chance to read the lines that I had referred you to?
I did.
All right. And did that refresh your memory as to the context in which you were talking to Detective Edwards?
It did.
All right. And please explain what that context was.
Is there a discrepancy between the transcript and what I've set up here? The night that I woke up without Kaylee in the bed was not the night of June 9th.
Correct. All right. I'm sorry. Yes. And what, as a result of you waking up with Kaylee not in the bed, what happened?
Nothing. Casey said her mother had called her.
Overruled?
Go ahead.
Casey said her mother had called her during the night and asked her to bring Kaylee home. And
Mr. George.
I'll ask a different question, Judge.
Okay.
As a result of that happening, did the defendant and Kaylee leave your residence?
when I woke up,
Yes.
I don't recall the rest of the morning. I just woke up. Casey was in the bed and Kaylee was not.
Okay.
I don't know if she left directly after me waking up. I really don't recall.
That was after receiving a phone call, though, correct?
When she left during the night,
Yes.
I was not awake for the phone call. She said that was the reason she left, was because she got a phone call.
Thank you, sir.
Any additional questions?
Just so there's no confusion, what you're saying is that when you testified earlier under cross-examination that there was only one time that you remembered Kaylee in the middle of you two, or in the same bed, that was not true. You were referring to a specific date.
Okay. As far as where Kaylee slept, it was never directly next to me, and I don't understand what you're getting at.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have the opportunity to witness Casey's interaction with Kaylee?
That particular evening? Or?
Multiple times.
Yes, every time both of them were at my house.
And did you see how Kaylee reacted to Casey?
Both the redirect.
Mr. Baez?
Well, two things. One, I thought we had an agreement that we wouldn't have to recall this witness.
I will permit it.
Thank you, sir.
Could you repeat the question?
You saw Kaylee interact with Casey, did you not?
I did.
Many times?
Several times, yes.
3 to 4 times a week?
Yes.
And did she ever go hungry?
Kaylee? No.
Was Casey a good mother to her?
From what I saw,
Sustain.
Did you ever see Kaylee run to Casey?
no, I don't. I'm not recalling any moment she ran to her.
Did you ever see Kaylee hugging Casey?
Yes.
And did that appear genuine to you?
Yes. Oops.
Sustain.
Was she happy?
Was who happy?
Kaylee. Was Kaylee happy with Casey?
I can answer this one?
Yeah. If you know.
Yes. She appeared happy, yes.
Yes. And did you ever see Casey strike Kaylee?
No.
And did you ever see Casey torture Kaylee in any way?
No.
Punish her in a method that would be considered torture?
No. She had issues with Kaylee going to sleep, but I don't know. That's the only time I saw her disciplining Kaylee.
You only saw her discipline Kaylee once?
No, it was reoccurring whenever when she was trying to put Kaylee to sleep.
Okay.
But it was, she just looked like a normal mother trying to get her kid to go to sleep.
And nothing other than a normal mother putting a child to sleep?
From what I saw and from my experience, yes, that's how I perceived it.
No further questions, Judge.
No other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
May the witness be excused. Thank you, sir. You may be excused. State may call the next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State will call Melissa England.
We weren't given any notice. We need a minute to get the file, Judge.
Well, where are your files?
In the conference room.
What happened to the space that I gave y'all in the back?
That's where it is.
No, I'm talking about back here.
Oh, back here now.
Well, have them go get the files, but bring the witness in.
Melissa England, MELISSAENGLAND.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Ms. England, how old are you?
I am 26.
And where do you currently reside? You don't give me an address, but do you live here in Florida?
No, Boston, Massachusetts.
Are you working?
Yes.
Where do you work?
A software firm, and I do marketing for them.
How long have you been doing that?
About 2.5 years now.
All right. Ms. England, do you know a person by the name of Troy Brown?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Troy Brown?
I went to high school with Troy Brown, and then we dated a couple years ago.
Were you dating back in June, July of 2008?
Yes, we were.
Back in June and July of 2008, where were you living?
I was living in Northern Virginia, Arlington.
Referring you to July 2nd of 2008, did you happen to be in Florida?
Yes, I was in Orlando visiting Troy.
Okay. You came down to visit Troy?
Mm-hmm.
You need to say yes or no for the
Oh, sorry, yes.
That's okay. You came on July 2nd. Who picked you up from the airport?
Troy did.
Prior to coming down to Orlando, did you know a person by the name of Casey Anthony?
I did not know her before I came.
Did you know of her? Had you heard her name before?
Yes, Troy had mentioned her.
When you arrived here in Orlando, Troy picked you up from the airport. And from there, where immediately did you go?
I dropped my things off at where he was living, and then we went to a place called Voyage.
Had you been down to visit Troy before in Orlando?
No, this was my first trip.
This was actually your first trip to Orlando at all?
I had been younger, but this was my first trip to visit Troy, yes.
You went to a place called Voyage.
Yes.
Do you remember where that is?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Were you expecting to go there?
He had mentioned that was where he would like to take me.
Was it your understanding that you were going to meet some of Troy's friends there?
Yes.
All right. While you were at Voyage, did you meet Casey Anthony?
I did.
All right. Now, when you first met her, can you tell the jury what her demeanor was at the club?
She was very friendly, outgoing. She introduced herself to me immediately and was asking about Troy and I's plans for the weekend.
Did you have plans for that weekend?
We did. We were going to stay in Orlando for a few nights and then go to Sarasota to visit one of my friends for the 4th of July.
At that time, were you aware of what type of employment Troy Brown had?
Yes.
What was he doing at the time?
He was a valet at a hotel in downtown.
Now, when you came down to visit, did he take the rest of the week off?
He had taken off, but then was called in for the following day.
So he had to work on July 3rd.
Yes.
To your knowledge, did Casey Anthony know that?
Not to my knowledge.
Did the defendant inquire as to what you guys were going to do while you were in town?
Yeah, she did. Just ask what my plans were, and that is when I told her, Troy and I both told her that he had to work, so we didn't have plans the next day.
When you told the defendant that, did she say anything to you?
Yes, she said that she was off work, and she offered to take me around shopping while he was busy at work.
All right. And did you agree to, did you say, did you?
This.
Overall,
Did you accept her offer?
Yes.
Now, while you were how long were you at Club Voyage, approximately?
We got there late at night. We were probably there for about 3 hours.
Were you drinking?
Yes.
Was Troy drinking?
Yes.
Was the defendant drinking?
That I can remember, yes.
Okay. Was there anything?
overall,
Was there anything about the defendant's demeanor that reflected anything but being, like you described earlier, happy and outgoing?
No.
When you met her, did she mention to you that she had a daughter?
No.
Did you know from other means that she had a daughter?
Troy had mentioned it to me previously.
But when you first met the defendant, she didn't say anything about it?
No.
About her, I should say.
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Or had been kidnapped?
No.
Or that she was looking for her?
No.
Or that she needed your help to help find her?
No.
Did she tell you that anything bad had happened to her?
No.
Was there anything in her demeanor that night at Club Voyage that would indicate that there was anything wrong with the defendant?
No.
While you were at Club Voyage, did she talk about anything else?
She mentioned that she was going to get a tattoo the next day and invited me to go with her since she invited me. She invited or offered me to spend the day with her while Troy worked.
Did you want to get a tattoo?
No, I wasn't interested in that, so I told her I wouldn't go with her.
The rest of the night, did anything remarkable happen?
Nope.
Did you have a set plan or where you were going to meet the defendant the next day?
She was going to pick me up. We were going to meet at a mutual friend of theirs, JP's house. But no plan that I was aware of was in place.
Before you left the defendant's presence that night on July 2nd, did you exchange phone numbers?
No.
Did you exchange email addresses?
No.
How did you get in touch, or how did the defendant get in touch with you on July 3rd?
Through Troy.
Approximately what time was that?
It was in the afternoon. I don't recall the exact time. I would say around noon.
And just to reiterate, where were you staying while here in Orlando?
Troy lived with his sister then, so we were staying at his place that night.
What is his sister's name?
Kara.
Okay. Now, did you leave Troy's sister's house to go to JP's?
Yes, with Troy.
With Troy.
Yes.
How soon after you arrived there did you see the defendant?
Immediately. She was already there.
Did you see what type of car the defendant had?
Not when I got there, but when we were together later.
Okay. When you first saw the defendant on July 3rd of 2008, can you tell the jury what her demeanor was like when you first saw her?
It was similar to the night before. She was, again, happy and friendly and very outgoing to me.
Did she tell you at that point that her daughter was missing?
No.
Or had been kidnapped?
No.
Or she was looking for her?
No.
Or that she needed help in looking for her?
No.
Did she tell you or indicate to you in any way that anything bad had happened to her?
No.
She was in the same mood as the night before?
Yes.
How long did you stay at JP's house?
It was a short amount of time, not very long. Troy went to work shortly after.
How did Troy get to work?
I believe that we dropped him off, but I can't remember exactly.
So at some point, you left JP's house.
Yes,
Who did you leave the house with?
with Casey.
Just the two of you? Or you believe you did?
Yes.
All right. You didn't have a car, is that correct?
No,
All right. Who drove?
Casey did.
What type of car did you get into?
It was a Grand Cherokee type car, an SUV.
Did the defendant mention to you whose car that was?
She mentioned that it was her boyfriend, Tony's car, and that her car was in the shop.
Did she give you any other detail about what was wrong with her car?
No, that was it.
Do you know a person by the name of Amy Huizinga?
I met her that weekend as well.
Did you meet her the night before?
Yes.
Had you ever met her before?
No.
Was this somebody that you had heard about through Troy?
Yes.
Did the defendant tell you anything about Amy Huizinga?
There was a story about how Amy had lost some money the night before while she was sleepwalking. And
We have 4-3, and may we approach?
You may. Objection sustained. Next question.
Thank you, Judge. All right, so you and Ms. Anthony left. Where'd you go?
we first went to a Target and then later on the Florida Mall.
While at Target, do you recall the defendant receiving any phone calls?
Yes, she did.
First of all, do you know when the phone call came in who it was from?
No, I did not.
Could you hear any of the defendant's part of the conversation?
We weren't close, as I mentioned, so I stood a little further away to give her privacy, but she was arguing with someone on the phone.
Was this a long argument or a short argument?
It wasn't extremely long. It wasn't a quick one either. It was, I would say, maybe 5-10 minutes.
What makes you say that it was an argument?
Well, just the way, the demeanor that Casey was speaking, just harshly and sounded irritated.
During the course of that conversation that she had on the phone, did you hear the defendant use any particular words?
She referenced I could overhear that it was about money issues, and then I also heard her mention the word nanny. So I thought that she was probably talking to her mother, but she didn't say that until she had hung up the phone.
Okay. So after the conversation, did you ask her, did you say anything to her at all?
Yeah, I just asked if she was okay, and she said, yeah, I just had an argument with my mom.
With
her mother.
Did she elaborate at all about what that argument was about?
No, she didn't.
Did you ask?
No, I didn't.
Now, while you were initially shopping with the defendant, did you know that she was dating somebody?
Yes, because she mentioned that it was her boyfriend's car that we were riding in.
Okay. Did she talk about her boyfriend?
Yes, she did. She referenced him a lot and that it was new, but she really liked him.
During this time period, did she mention anything about her daughter?
No, she didn't.
All right. After you went to Target, where did you go from there?
To the mall.
Okay. Do you know which mall you went to?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. And what did you do at the mall?
We just shopped at a couple of different stores. I think she purchased a few things and I didn't.
While you were at the mall, do you recall the defendant either making phone calls or receiving phone calls?
Not at the mall, I don't recall, but she was on her cell phone often throughout the day.
Doing what?
Mostly texting.
Okay. Did you ever ask her who she was texting?
No.
Did she ever volunteer?
One text message, she referenced that it was her work contacting her and saying that she was on vacation and they were contacting her about something they needed.
Did she relate to you anything about her employment?
That's when I asked, after she referenced that, I asked what she did for work.
Okay. And what did she tell you?
She told me that she was an event coordinator for Universal Studios.
And what were you doing at the time? What kind of work were you doing at the time?
I was also doing marketing, but for a different firm in Northern Virginia.
Did you start to talk about your respective jobs?
Yes, because I did events with that current organization. So we just talked a little bit about event planning and how it can be stressful and things like that.
Did the defendant tell you that event planning was stressful?
Yeah, I'm just, people always asking a lot of questions.
Did she give you any indication of what her work hours were?
No, but she referenced that she was on vacation.
Did she make any comments about her work or about the text or the message that she had received while you were out shopping with her?
Not what it said or anything.
Okay. While you were at the mall, did the topic of her daughter come up?
No.
Did you ever hear her, while you were with her at the mall or at Target, talk to purportedly to the nanny?
No.
Or to her daughter?
No.
From the mall, where did you go from there?
We stopped by Troy's sister's house where he was living at the time so that I could get ready for the evening.
Did the defendant stay with you?
She came inside with me, yes.
Okay. Did she ever leave?
Well, we left together, but no, she stayed with me as I got ready.
Again, while you were at JP's house, did she reference her daughter
No.
in any way,
No.
good or bad?
No, just no reference.
Okay. And how long do you think you were at JP's house before you left?
Well, we were at Troy's sister's house.
I'm sorry, Troy's sister's house.
When we were at Troy's sister's house, there was actual speaking of Kaylee after Troy's sister asked about her.
Okay. Without going into what his sister may have said, what do you recall the defendant saying about her daughter?
She was referencing that she was thinking about leaving Orlando because the school system the public school system wasn't as great, and would wanted to take Kaylee somewhere that she could get a better education.
And again, this was on July 3rd of 2008.
Yes.
From that location, where did you go next?
To dinner.
Where'd you go?
We went to the restaurant that Amy was working at.
Do you remember the name of it?
I think it started with an H, but I don't remember the name.
Okay. If I said the word Houlihan's, would that ring a bell?
It does ring a bell, yes.
Who went out to dinner?
It was just Casey and I.
Any idea what time you went?
No. It was a while ago. I'm sorry.
Okay. When you went to Houlihan's, was Amy working?
Yes, we sat in her section.
Was that on purpose? Did you want to sit in her section?
Yes.
And did Amy Huizinga serve you dinner?
Yes, she did.
What do you recall you and Casey talking about at dinner?
I asked, after Kaylee had been brought up, I asked some more questions, but nothing too deep. It was just a light dinner conversation.
Okay. What do you recall the defendant saying about her daughter?
I just asked her to elaborate about wanting to leave Orlando and things of that nature. And
what did she say?
I don't recall exactly, but she just seemed to elaborate that she liked Orlando and it was her home, but she would have to think about it further if she left.
Based upon this conversation, were you left with the impression that Kaylee was fine?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she had been kidnapped?
No.
Or missing?
No.
Again, was there any change in the defendant's demeanor at dinner than it was at the mall or at Target or at Club Voyage the night before?
No.
How would you describe her demeanor at dinner?
She was happy.
Did she talk any more about her boyfriend?
She talked about her boyfriend several times throughout the day, but...
Was there anything? Did she say anything negative about her?
No. I mean, it was a lot. She was excited. It was a new relationship.
Now, after dinner, where did the two of you go?
We got Troy from work.
And again, are you still, is the defendant still driving?
Yes.
Are you still in the black Cherokee?
Yes.
And after you picked up Troy, where did you go?
We went back to JP's house.
On the way to picking up Troy, do you recall the defendant taking a phone call?
Yes, she actually made a phone call to some friends that she was going to meet up with that night, but then changed her plans to accommodate picking up Troy and spending more time with us.
And you heard that part of the conversation?
Yes.
Upon hanging up from that call, do you recall the defendant saying anything?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said she had told the friends that she couldn't come pick them up to hang out with them because she was having car trouble or that she got a flat tire or something of that nature. And as she hung up, she said she kind of threw the phone down in the dashboard and just said, "Oh my God, I'm such a good liar."
I'm such a good
Liar.
Thank you. Picked up Troy?
Yes.
Where'd you go from there?
To JP's house.
Overall,
You went to JP's house.
Yes.
What was the plan that night?
Just to go out to a few bars downtown.
To your knowledge, while you were getting ready to do that, was the defendant part of that plan?
Yes.
Did she leave JP's house while you were all getting ready?
I don't recall. I believe that we all went downtown together.
All right, so who went downtown?
Troy, myself, Casey, Amy met us after her shift, and their friend JP.
All right. Do you remember where you went to first?
A place called Chillers.
Okay. Is that in downtown Orlando?
Yes.
Did you have something to drink?
Yes.
I guess alcohol.
Yes.
Was everybody drinking?
Everyone was drinking.
Did you, when you first arrived at Chillers,
overall,
when you first got to Chillers, how would you describe the defendant's demeanor?
The same. Happy and just outgoing.
Any mention about Kaylee,
No.
or that she was worried about her?
No.
Everybody having a good time?
Yes.
At some point, do you recall being at Chillers or anywhere else downtown, do you recall the defendant either making a phone call or receiving phone calls?
Yes.
Was it just one or two, or was it many?
It seemed to be several on and off the phone. I don't know if they were incoming or outgoing.
Did you hear any part of those conversations?
I didn't.
Could you tell any difference in the defendant's demeanor after she got off the phone?
Yes, she was upset.
Was this after the first phone call?
I don't recall if it was after the first, but through the time period, she was upset.
When you say upset, what do you mean?
I believe she was crying. She seemed to be very distraught.
Did you ask her why she was distraught?
I didn't ask her personally what was going on, but I knew that she was arguing with her brother
Okay. How did you know that?
because Troy told me that.
All right. Did you ask her any questions?
sustained,
Move to strike, Your Honor.
motion to strike. Granted, ladies and gentlemen, the jury disregard the last comment that the witness made about what.
Did you
someone
ask her any
told.
questions about the phone conversation she had with her brother?
I did not.
All right. Did the defendant's mood change?
Yes.
And when it changed, what did her mood, how did it change?
She was very upset. She was crying often, and the phone calls were, there were several of them, and she was clearly not doing well and ultimately wanted to leave.
Was she taking the phone calls? In other words, was she speaking on the phone?
It seemed so, yes.
Did the mood ever change where from crying she went back to being,
There were times where she was trying to get back in a good mood and try to have fun, but then there would be more phone calls, and ultimately she was just upset and wanted to go and told all of us that.
did she say why?
No.
When she told you that she wanted to leave, did she appear to be in a hurry to leave?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. So did you all agree to leave?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Everyone went home, went their separate ways.
From downtown, where did you go?
I went to JP's house.
Right. Did the defendant also go to JP's house?
No, she didn't.
When did you say goodbye to Casey Anthony?
Outside of the bar, we said goodbye.
When you say we, is that you and Troy?
Yes.
All right. When you were saying goodbye, was she still upset?
She was upset. She was just asking about the rest of our plans for the weekend and if we were going to see each other because it was the holiday weekend. But she was, getting better.
Did you make any plans? Or tentative plans?
We had mentioned that we were interested in going bowling on Sunday before my flight out of town. And it was suggested that she come with Tony and bring Kaylee.
And when that was suggested to her, what was the defendant's response?
She acted as if that was a good idea.
And you said goodnight?
Yep.
Did you have any subsequent phone calls or phone conversations with Casey Anthony?
I did not know.
Did you have any subsequent emails or text messages from Casey Anthony?
No, I did not.
After that night on July 3rd, did you ever see her again?
I didn't.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Miss England.
Good afternoon.
You live in North Carolina?
No, I live in Boston.
Boston, excuse me. And how did you get here to Florida today?
I flew from Boston.
And did the state pay for your flight here?
Yes.
And did you have to stay at a hotel?
Yes, I did.
And they took care of that as well?
Yes.
Now, since you're here, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how Kaylee Marie Anthony died?
Cause for speculation.
If you know.
Overruled.
No.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury any information about when Kaylee Marie Anthony died, if you know?
No, I cannot.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury anything about where Kaylee Marie Anthony died?
No.
Now, you mentioned some things under direct examination of your holiday weekend, and Mr. George asked you about Casey confiding in you about her missing daughter.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Mr. George had questioned you about Casey not confiding in you about her missing daughter.
Right.
And that she didn't tell you that she needed help.
No, she did not.
She didn't tell you that she was distraught.
No.
She didn't tell you about any tragedy that she was going as it relates to Kaylee.
No.
In fact, you knew her to be happy-go-lucky.
Yes, I did.
And there didn't seem to be a thing wrong or anything that would indicate to you that her daughter was deceased.
No.
She didn't also confide in you about her childhood, did she?
No, she didn't.
She didn't tell you when? She didn't tell you anything about when she was 10 years old?
Objection, Your Honor. Assuming facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
She didn't tell you about any of her horrors or what she's gone through in life, has she?
Facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
She didn't tell you anything. Miss England.
Justice.
I'm sorry.
You ready? You may proceed.
Miss England, you barely knew Casey Anthony.
That is correct.
In fact, you had just met her that weekend.
Yes.
And you really don't know anything about how good a mother she was,
I don't.
whether she loved her daughter,
No.
whether her daughter loved her,
No.
or anything other than what occurred on the 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, sir. Thank you.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be excused. Who will be the state's next witness?
Your Honor, the state's next witness will be Troy Brown.
Okay. Okay, you may proceed, Mr. George.
Troy Brown, TroyBrown.
Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Brown, how old are you?
I'm 26 years old.
Do you currently live in the state of Florida?
I do not.
Where do you live?
I live in the state of Virginia.
Are you employed?
I am.
What do you do?
I work in advertising sales
How long have you been doing that?
for a little over 2 years now.
Were you living here in Central Florida in 2007 and 2008?
I was.
While you were here in 2008, what were you doing?
I was a student,
Where were you going to school?
University of Central Florida.
Did you graduate from UCF?
I did.
With what? What type of degree?
Degree in marketing.
Do you know Casey Anthony?
I do.
When did you first meet Casey Anthony?
I met her through a friend of a friend of an ex-girlfriend at a birthday party in 2007.
Did you stay in regular contact with her throughout 2007 and into 2008?
I didn't see her very often. It was every now and then. I saw her more often when she started dating one of my good friends, Ricardo Morales.
You were aware that the defendant and Mr. Morales were dating?
Yes.
Were you aware when they broke up?
Yes.
Were you ever roommates with Ricardo?
I was not.
Do you know who Tony Lazaro is?
I know of Tony Lazaro. I've met him on 2 times, but I don't know him very well.
All right. The first time that you met Mr. Lazaro, do you recall when that was?
It was in May of 2008 at a party.
What kind of party? Do you recall?
It was just a house party. I think one of his friends was DJing it. So, yeah.
All right. And also, did you see the defendant that night?
I did.
Do you know who Kaylee Anthony is?
I do.
Did you see Kaylee soon after her birth?
No, I wouldn't have. I didn't see her until probably late 2007, sometime before I initially met her, but before Ricardo started dating her.
Did you see Kaylee Anthony in June of 2008?
Yes.
Where did you see Kaylee Anthony in June of 2008?
At Ricardo Morales' house.
Okay. When you saw Kaylee, did you also see Casey?
Yes.
After June 9th or June 10th of 2008, when was the next time you saw Casey Anthony?
After June 10th?
Yes.
I believe late June, because I went on a trip. I went back home to Virginia for about a week or so.
Okay. During the month of June, did you communicate with Casey Anthony?
I did. There was a Facebook message that she had sent me.
Okay. May I approach the witness? You may. Sir, I'm showing you what's marked for identification, LM. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Can you tell us what that is?
That is a printout of a Facebook conversation.
Okay. The Facebook conversation between whom?
Myself and the defendant.
Do you recognize your name or address on that communication?
I recognize my name.
Okay. Do you also recognize the defendant's name or email address?
I do.
Okay. Looking at that, does that appear to be a true conversation between the two of you in June of 2008?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification LM into evidence as the state's next in line.
We would object and request a sidebar on it.
Okay. Okay, you may continue. Objection, I believe, will be overruled.
And Your Honor, the state would move it into evidence as the state's next in line.
Okay. And that will be over defense objections. It'll be what?
Can you make that any bigger?
You want to blow that up, son?
Yeah, no. Can you get it any higher? Without losing. Okay. Let's just go there.
Yes, can you blow that up? Help him go over there and see.
I can make it a little easier. Okay. Sir, can you see what's on the screen there?
I can.
All right. Your Honor, may I publish this to the jury at this time?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. This is an email from or a Facebook message from the defendant to you.
Yes.
Okay. What's the date on that?
June 24th, 2008.
Can you read what she sent you?
Yeah. Do you want me to reference what I'm referencing to
Yes.
it? Okay. This is talking about, I guess, Amy was supposed to be moving in with Casey, and this was the message she sent me. She still has yet to move into the house. Hell, in the past 9 days, I haven't even been. Oh. Okay.
She has to take down everything you're saying.
I got you. Start back up. She still has yet to move into the house. Hell, in the past 9 days, I haven't even been living at the house. Drama, I'll fill you in later.
Then it's mission.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask her what the drama was?
I didn't, no.
Okay, you can cut that. Or I can cut it, I'm sorry. Who is Amy Huizinga?
She was actually a friend of mine. My roommate my freshman year knew her from high school, and that's how I originally met her. And she was a friend of all of ours. And then when Ricardo started dating Casey, they became friends just because being in the same social circles.
Prior to receiving that message, did you and the defendant have any conversations about the defendant's living situation?
I knew that her and the defendant and Amy were looking for a place together.
Did you have an understanding as to where they were going to be moving to?
No, I believe it was they were just looking.
Okay. To your knowledge, was Amy under the impression she was going to be living with the defendant?
Yes.
Asked to strike.
Your Honor, I asked based on his knowledge.
The witness,
Sir, what is your knowledge based upon?
Just prior conversations with Amy Huizinga.
Sustain.
You didn't have any conversations with the defendant about that?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly conversations that we had, but I know that there were. I don't know dates, but I know there was conversations.
You had indicated that you went home to Virginia during the early part of June.
The mid part of June.
Mid part of June of 2008. When did you come back?
I believe I came back on the 18th of June.
Other than the periodic emails, conversations with the defendant, did you have any contact with her for the rest of the month of June?
No.
Okay. Going into July of 2008, did you see the defendant?
I did. I saw her on June 2nd.
June 2nd or July 2nd?
Or July 2nd, sorry.
Okay. Who is Melissa England?
She was a girl that I was seeing at the time that was just flying in for the weekend.
During this time period, were you working, sir?
I was.
Where were you working?
I was working at what was the Sheridan downtown hotel.
What were you doing there?
I was a valet parker.
When Melissa came down, did she stay with you?
She did.
Okay. How long had Miss England's trip been planned?
I'm not 100% sure. Probably
That's
within
okay.
the last month would
When
be
you-
my assumption.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. While speaking with her, did you mention any of your friends?
When speaking with
With Miss England about coming down and who you guys would be spending time with and what you'd be doing?
not that I recall, no.
All right. When did she come to Orlando?
June or July 2nd.
All right. Did you pick her up at the airport?
I did.
All right. And from the airport, where did you go?
We went back to my sister's house, which is where I was living at the time. And then later that night, we went out to Voyage, which was a bar, and then to another bar after that.
When you went to Voyage, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
Were you planning on seeing the defendant there that night?
I would imagine so, but I'm sure the plans were just made the day of or the night of. It wasn't anything planned in long term.
When you arrived at Voyage, was the defendant already there?
I don't recall.
Okay. What time do you have any idea about what time you got there?
I don't know the exact time.
All right. So who's in your group of people that you're at Voyage with?
It's myself, Melissa, Amy, the defendant, and I believe that's it.
All right. And what can you tell the jury about the defendant's demeanor when you saw her at Voyage?
Normal, I would say. I mean, she was just out. We all were drinking and just like it was a normal night, I guess.
In a good mood?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Did you ever see her angry that night?
Not that night, no.
Sad?
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
She did not.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
Did she tell you that anything had happened to Casey herself?
No.
Was there anything in her demeanor that led you to believe that anything was wrong?
Not at all.
Do you recall having any specific conversations with the defendant about Kaylee that night?
Not that evening, no.
All right. You said after Voyage, you went to another club. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you remember the name of it?
I believe it was Mako's.
Okay. Was that in downtown Orlando?
Yes.
When you went to Mako's, did the same group go there,
I believe so, yes.
including the defendant?
Yes.
Did you introduce your then girlfriend, Ms. England, to Casey?
I did.
All right. Did they seem to hit it off?
Yeah, I mean, they just seemed like, Melissa has a personality where she would, she's very accepting, I guess, but yes, would be the short answer.
Okay. And was the defendant friendly
Yes.
to her?
Yes.
How late did you stay out that night?
I don't recall. Probably 1 a.m. would be what I would assume.
Were you aware on July 2nd of 2008 that Ms. England and the defendant were going to spend the next day together?
I believe they did speak about that because I had to work the following day, and she didn't have anything to do for the 8-hour period that I'd be working. So I think she just volunteered to kind of take her out.
All right, let's move on to the next day, July 3rd.
Okay.
On July 3rd of 2008, in the morning or noontime, did you see the defendant?
I don't recall.
All right. Where did you go when you woke up in the morning? What did you do?
On July 3rd?
On July 3rd.
I don't recall. I know I worked that afternoon, but I don't know what I did in the morning.
All right. Do you recall seeing the defendant before you went to work?
Yes. I believe I was actually dropped off to work by the defendant, and Miss England was in the vehicle with us.
Okay. Do you remember the type of car?
I don't, but I know it was Tony Lazzaro's car.
How do you know that?
Because she told me, and it wasn't her car, so I was just curious, I guess.
Okay. Do you recall her telling you where her car was?
Not the location, but I knew that there were issues with the car.
Okay. What kind of issues were you made aware of about the car?
I was just made a generalization that there were problems with the car, but I had no specific points to it.
Okay. So you were driving, or you were given a ride to work in Tony Lazzaro's car?
Correct.
All right. And you went to work?
Yes.
Did you speak with Melissa during the course of the day?
I don't believe so. It was just I was picked up by them since I was dropped off, so I spoke after work.
Do you recall what time you got off work?
It's either 10 or 11 o'clock. It was the late shift.
And upon being picked up, where did you go?
We went to Ricardo's house from there, and then from there we took a taxi to some bars downtown.
All right. And when you say we, who are you talking about?
Myself, Melissa, Casey, Amy, and I believe that's it.
Again, when you saw the defendant on the night of July 3rd of 2008, what can you tell this jury about her demeanor?
She was upset when she was receiving phone calls throughout the night, and we were led to believe that it was from her brother, and she was visibly upset to the point of crying in front of us. And yes.
Did you overhear any of the conversations that the defendant was having on the phone while you were out with her on July 3rd?
I did not. Just visual reactions is what I saw.
Did she stop crying?
She'd be when she got off the phone, she'd be in her regular mood, and then when she would get back on the phone, she would be upset once again.
All right. And was this more than one phone call?
Yes, there were multiple phone calls. I don't know the exact amount, but there were multiple phone calls.
Was this over a short period of time or
Yes.
a long period of time?
It was within an hour or two.
All right. At some point, what happened when the phone calls kept coming?
She just asked to leave. She wanted us to leave, so we left. We went back to Ricardo's house, and I don't believe Casey came with us. She went off and did her own thing. Okay. We just went back to Ricardo's house.
So did you say goodbye to her that night?
I'm sure we exchanged some sort of goodbye, but I don't recall exactly where or when.
After that, did you have any contact with Casey Anthony?
There were phone calls after that, but I don't believe I there were phone calls regarding the trip to Puerto Rico that we were planning, but
let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
You had a trip planned to Puerto Rico?
We did. It was myself, Ricardo, John Chat, and Amy.
And Amy.
Yeah.
To your knowledge, was the defendant ever part of that plan to go to Puerto Rico?
She was, but she She never gave a direct answer whether or not she was going. She just kind of pushed it off and said she might be going.
Did you ever have any final conversations with her about whether or not she was actually going to go?
I did. It was on July 10th. And she had mentioned that I guess it was official that she wasn't going to go.
Did she tell you why?
Because she was trying to find a place to live and because she was trying to find a car.
Did she mention anything about her daughter?
She did not.
Did you go to Puerto Rico?
I did.
When did you return?
July 15th.
When you returned on July 15th, did you see the defendant again?
I did.
Where did you see her?
She picked us up from the airport in Amy Huizinga's car.
Did she give you all a ride back?
She did, yes.
Was there anything about her demeanor when you saw her on July 15th that led you to believe that there was anything wrong with her?
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing at that point?
No.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
That she needed help?
No.
What was her mood when she picked you up on July 15th?
She seemed normal.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Brown, good afternoon, sir. Do you have any information for this jury to tell them how Kaylee died?
I do not.
Do you have any information that might help them know where Kaylee died?
I do not.
Do you have any information to help them with when Kaylee died?
I do not.
Thank you, sir.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused. State may call the next witness.
Thank you. At this time, the state would call Iassen Donov.
Sound clear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
My name is Iassen Donov. Iassen, last name Donov.
You may
May I
proceed.
pause?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Good. Mr. Donov, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Do you currently live here in Florida?
Yes.
What do you do?
I am a pharmaceutical recruiter.
A pharmaceutical recruiter?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
When pharmaceutical companies need an executive, they come to somebody like me, and I find them for them.
How long have you been doing that?
About a year.
What's your educational background, sir?
I have a bachelor's from UCF,
When did you graduate from UCF?
December of 2010.
What type of degree?
Political science?
Do you know Casey Anthony?
Yes, I do.
When did you first meet Casey Anthony?
I first met her in January of 2007.
Did you remain friends with her
Since that time, yes.
since that time? I'm sorry. Thank you for filling that in for me. Since that time.
Yes, sir.
How did you meet her?
She was dating my friend Brandon Snow, and he introduced her to me.
Did you meet her in June of 2008?
Did I
Did
know
you
her?
see her in June of 2008?
Yes.
Where'd you see her?
The Ale House.
Do you recall when that was?
I don't know the specific date.
Was it the end of the month or the beginning of the month?
Towards the end.
All right. Who was at Buffalo Wild Wings?
Buffalo Wild Wings, which was July 2nd. It was myself, Sean Daly, Corey, Brandon Snow, and another girl, Layla.
I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. Let's go back to the end of June. You said the ale house?
Yes, and it was the same group of people, I believe.
Okay. Were you planning on seeing the defendant there?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. When you saw her at the ale house at the end of June of 2008, what can you tell this jury about how she appeared? What was her demeanor?
I didn't notice a difference. Typical Casey.
What is typical Casey?
Social, happy, talkative.
Did she talk to you about her daughter on that day?
No.
Did she tell you her daughter was missing,
No.
kidnapped,
No.
that she was looking for her,
No.
that she needed help?
No.
Did she tell you that anything bad had happened to her?
No.
By all accounts, she was happy.
Yes, sir.
How long did you stay with her, or how much time did you spend with her that night?
Oh, I don't recall. We were all there for dinner. I would say 2-3 hours.
Did you, knowing her since 2007, you were aware that she had a daughter?
Yes, sir.
Had you met Kaylee?
Once at her second birthday party.
Since her second birthday party, you never saw her again?
No, sir.
Did you ask about her?
Never.
And again, I'm talking about the ale house. When you were at
never
the
at the ale house.
Okay. Did you all have a good time?
Yes, sir.
Other than y'all having a good time, is there anything remarkable about that night?
Typical, just like all our other nights.
Okay. During this time period in June of 2008, you kept in contact with her in other ways, did you not?
Yes, sir.
How so?
AOL Instant Messenger.
Okay. What did you know about the defendant's employment during this time period?
At that time period, I believe she worked at Universal Studios.
Doing what?
Event coordinator.
Did she ever tell you about her job?
Other than the title, I never asked much about it.
Okay. Did you ever have any reason to doubt that she worked there?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask her about her child care issue, if there was any child care issues?
I did. I had one question on AOL Instant Messenger. I asked her when she works. What does she do with Kaylee?
Okay. What was her response?
She has a nanny that she's known for 6 years.
Had you ever heard of this nanny before?
No, sir.
Right.
So I'm showing you, or I've placed in front of you what has been marked for identification as LL. Do you mind taking a look at that?
Of course.
Sorry?
Of course, yes, sir.
Please. Take your time.
It's the transcripts between me and Casey.
Okay. First
June
of all,
and July.
First of all, let me go through it. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What are they?
Excuse me?
What are they?
AOL Instant Messenger transcripts between me and Casey Anthony.
Okay, and this is an AOL Instant Messenger service?
Yes, sir.
What was your name for the AOL messenger?
Doorknob 375. Doorknob 375.
And you recognize that as your name?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about the defendants? What was her name?
Casey O. Marie.
And you have seen this before, have you not?
Yes, sir.
And they are dated, these instant messages are dated from June 13th, 2008, June 19th, 2008, June 20th, 2008, July 14th, 2008. And you have previously had the occasion to review these, have you not?
Yes, sir.
Are all of these messages a true and accurate representation of the messaging that went on between you and the defendant on these dates?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification LL into evidence as the state's next in line.
What says the defense? As you know, the court reporter
Yes, sir.
probably didn't hear a thing
Sorry,
you said.
Sorry, Judge. We would object. I think this is another issue that would require
Same
some
basis
argument.
as the last one.
No. No.
Give me the short objection.
Much of this is irrelevant.
Okay. Based upon relevancy, it'll be overruled. It'll be entered in evidence as
All right. Do you can you see what's in the screen in front of you?
Yes, sir.
And what is the date there?
July 13th, 2008.
All right. Now, can you go down a little bit more? Okay. Can you see what's there, sir?
Yes, sir.
May I publish this, Your Honor?
you may.
Thank you. What's the topic of the conversation here, sir?
Casey moving out soon.
Okay, what was your understanding about Casey moving out?
She mentioned that she has been looking at apartments at the Winter Park Villas.
Did she give you an indication of when she wanted to move?
Within a week.
Can you go down a little bit more? Mark? To the end. That's good. To the end of the page. Look. All right. Now, you had indicated earlier that you had asked her about the about a nanny and what provision she made with her for her daughter when she was supposedly working. What did she tell you?
Casey's response was that she has a nanny. Quote, I love her.
Okay, this is on July 13th of 2008, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you go to the next page, Mark? During this time period, were you aware that she had a boyfriend?
Yes, sir.
What did she tell you about her boyfriend?
I knew his name. I believe his pictures and just from MySpace at the time.
During the course of these communications, was there an interest on your part to maybe start a relationship with the defendant?
Maybe at the time.
Did you or were you given any indications that she might be interested?
Yes, sir.
Is that the context of these messages?
A lot of them. Yes.
It's also another 403 issue.
Overruled untimely.
Have you ever heard of Fusion?
Yes, sir.
What is Fusion?
It is a sushi restaurant by day and a night lounge by night.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
A night lounge.
Did the defendant ever invite you to Fusion during the month of June 2008?
Many times.
By speaking or via email or how?
From what I remember, it's mostly via instant messenger.
Okay. Did you ever attend?
No, sir.
I have no further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
You knew Casey Anthony for how long, sir?
Since January of 2007.
So when a year and a half before she got arrested?
Yes, sir.
And throughout that time, you thought she had a nanny?
I didn't know until the instant messenger conversation. I figured that she lived with her parents.
And you thought she worked at Universal Studios?
In 2008, yes. In 2007, I believe she worked at Sports Authority.
And you also, throughout this time, believed that she was an event planner?
Yes.
And now you know none of that is true?
Yes.
And that's shocking, is it? Is it not?
It was at the time.
Okay. Shocking still now?
Yes.
Right? Okay. And when you saw her in June and July of 2008, you never noticed any difference in her behavior from before and after June 16, 2008.
No, sir.
In fact, she was friendly,
Yes, sir.
outgoing,
Yes.
just a nice person
Yes.
before and after.
Yes.
Do you have any information, or can you tell this jury how Kaylee died?
No.
No further questions, Judge.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Judge, I have one question.
Pardon?
I have one more question.
Just a second, sir. He has one more question.
Did you tell law enforcement that she wasn't a heavy drinker, Casey?
Yes.
And that every time you guys were at a party, she would leave early and drink late?
Drink late? Yes, sir.
No further questions.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. State may call the next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State we call Dante Salanti.
solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Name is Dante Salanti, spelled Dante Salati.
May I proceed, Judge?
You may.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good.
Mr. Salanti, how old are you?
I am 26.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a mechanic.
Do you know Casey Anthony?
Yes, I do.
How long have you known her?
Close to 11 years now.
Go to high school with her?
Yes,
Did you keep in touch with her after high school?
somewhat.
What does that mean? Off and on?
Yeah.
Were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes.
How did you become aware of that?
I don't really know how to explain it. I just
Kind of knew?
I knew. Yeah.
Did you ever meet Kaylee?
Yes.
When?
Multiple occasions. I'd say mostly I saw Kaylee when I worked at Don Reed Ford.
Okay. When was that? What year?
That was January to June of 2008.
All right. Sir, back in 2008, where were you living?
Sawgrass Apartments.
Do you know the address?
My current address at the time was 2867 South Conway Road, apartment 218.
Is that the Sawgrass Apartments?
Yes,
Back in 2008, what apartment number did you live in?
218.
218. When did you first move in there?
In 2005,
And how long did you stay at that apartment?
I stayed at that apartment until late 2008, early 2009.
And then you moved?
Yeah, well, I moved. I was still in Sawgrass, but I moved to another apartment.
Okay, you don't have to tell me that apartment number.
Okay.
But you are still currently at Sawgrass.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Where are you living now?
I currently live in Ventura Country Club.
Has Casey Anthony ever been over to your apartment at the Sawgrass Apartments?
Yes.
When?
06, 07, right around in there.
And would that have been in apartment 218?
Yes.
During the months of June or July of 2008, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
Where did you see her?
Miller's Ale House.
Where is Miller's Ale House?
It is on Alafaya Road or Alafaya Trail in East Orlando.
Do you recall when you saw her there?
I beg your pardon?
Do you recall when you saw her there?
It was July 1st.
Did you have plans to see her there? Or was that just somebody that you saw when you went?
We all knew that we were getting together.
Okay, who's we all?
A Other friends, Sean Daly, Daniel Fisher, Brandon Snow.
All right. Did you go to the ale house with the defendant?
No.
All right. You saw her there.
Yes.
Did you say hello?
Yes.
Engage in conversation?
Yes.
How did she appear?
Completely normal.
What does normal mean?
Someone free of worry.
She happy?
Yes.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
Did she ask you to help her find her?
No.
Did she tell you that anything terrible had happened to her?
No.
In other words, was there anything about her demeanor that gave you any cause for concern?
None.
How much time did you spend with her that night?
Maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Okay. Did she say anything about her work?
No.
Did you know whether or not she was working?
I did not.
All right. Did she say in your presence anything about her daughter, one way or the other?
No, she did not.
Did you ask her any questions about Kaylee?
No, I did not.
Was that the only time you saw her during that month?
Yes.
All right. Did you have any instant messaging or text messaging or phone calls with the defendant after that date?
No, I did not.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You've known Casey for 11 years.
Approximately.
And you know Casey to be a nice person,
Yes.
caring,
Yes.
giving,
Yes.
and you've seen her interact with Kaylee many times, have you not?
Yes.
And you saw the love between those two individuals, right?
Yes.
You saw how much Kaylee loved Casey.
Yes.
You would see her hug Casey on occasions,
Yes.
kiss her,
Yes.
and give her lots of affection.
Yes.
Did you see how attentive a mother Casey was to Kaylee?
Yes.
And did Kaylee's affection towards Casey appear to be fake in any way?
No.
It was genuine.
Yes.
And have you ever seen Kaylee go without food?
No.
Have you ever seen Kaylee dressed poorly or raggedy?
No.
Have you ever seen Casey abuse Kaylee?
No.
Have you ever seen her strike Kaylee?
No.
Have you ever seen her punish her or torture her in any way?
No.
And the entire time that you've known Casey, you never saw a change in her behavior from before June 16th and after, did you?
No, I did not.
And do you find it shocking, having known how much Kaylee and Casey loved each other, that you wouldn't see a difference in her behavior?
Overrule as to that question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Do you find it shocking that knowing and having had observed the love between Kaylee and Casey, that there was no change in Casey's behavior after June 16th?
Yes.
No further questions.
Redirect.
No, sir.
Get a witness be excused.
As far as the state's concerned, yes, sir.
Defense. Any objections to the witness being excused? Okay. Sir, you may be excused. Thank you very much. State may call the next witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state would call Christopher Stutz.
Okay, solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and the whole truth.
Christopher Stutz, CHRISTOPHER, STUTZ.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good.
Mr. Stutz, how old are you?
I'm 23 years old.
Do you work, sir?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
I'm an aquatics coordinator over the Lake Nona YMCA.
Appliance coordinator?
Aquatics, sorry.
Aquatics, I'm sorry. How long have you, and what do you do there?
I run the facility or the pool, operations, swim lessons, swim team, everything like that.
All right. Can you give the jury a basic idea of your educational background?
I got my bachelor's at Florida State University, and I'm currently working on my MBA at UCF.
Very good. Sir, do you know Casey Anthony?
Yes, sir.
How long have you known Ms. Anthony?
Since about 2005.
How did you meet her?
We actually met at a football game. We had a football game with a bunch of kids at Deerwood Elementary, and she came.
All right. Did you see the defendant in 2008?
Yes, sir.
When was the first time you saw her in 2008?
I believe it was about mid-May, May 16th, the week of.
And where did you see her?
She came to my parents' house.
Were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes, sir.
When she came to you were living with your parents?
Yes, sir.
When she came to you and your parents' house in mid-May of 2008, did she bring Kaylee with her?
Yes, sir.
Were your parents home?
No, sir.
How long did she stay?
She stayed the night.
Did you see her again in May of 2008?
It was about Mother's Day that she came back over.
When she came over...
609.
It's all relevant testimony. Just establishing the relationship and friendship between the witness and the...
Approach.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, as to the last question, during that series of questions, how long did she stay? And she stayed all night. You're instructed to disregard the last question in the last response. Okay, you may continue, Mr. George.
Sir, did you see the defendant in June of 2008?
June of 2008. Not that I can remember, no, sir.
Did you ever see her driving a black Jeep Cherokee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that in June of 2008?
I believe that was Mother's Day.
Do you recall talking to the Orange County Sheriff's Office on June 30th of 2008? Giving an interview with the police.
Oh, yes, sir.
Do you recall being asked whether or not you had seen the defendant in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember what your response was?
No, sir.
Okay. If you saw a transcript of your interview with the police, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just have 1 second, Judge. Right. Counsel, I'm referring to page 685.
Yes, sir. I was mistaken. Sorry about that.
It's no problem.
Right.
All right. You've had a chance to review?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did that help refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Did you see the defendant in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Where did you see her?
It was at my parents' house.
Okay. When you saw her in June of 2008, was Kaylee with her?
No, sir.
Do you recall about what date it was in June that you saw her?
Mid-June, probably the 17th or so.
Okay. Were you home from school during this time?
Summer break, yes, sir.
When she came to see you on June 17th of 2008, did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
No, sir.
Kidnapped?
No, sir.
That she was looking for her?
No, sir.
Did she ask you for help?
No, sir.
Did she tell you that anything had happened to her?
No, sir.
Did you ask anything about the car she was driving?
I asked, or she told me that it was a friend of hers car because her car had broken down.
Did she give you any other details about her car?
No, sir.
Did you see her again in the month of June of 2008?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Did you see her in July?
Yes, sir.
Where did you see Casey Anthony in July of 2008?
I believe it was July 7th that we saw her at, or I saw her at Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right. You said we. Who did you go to Buffalo Wild Wings with?
I went with a friend of mine.
All right. Were you planning on meeting the defendant there?
No, sir.
All right. Do you know who she was with?
I believe it was Sean Daly and Iassen.
Do you know those two gentlemen?
Pretty much by face and recognition, that's about it.
Okay. When you saw the defendant at Buffalo Wild Wings, did you say hello?
She approached my table and said hi.
Okay. What can you tell the jury about her demeanor when you saw her in July of 2008?
She seemed upbeat and happy.
Overall,
she seemed upbeat and happy.
Okay. Again, was there anything in her demeanor that reflected anything might be wrong?
No, sir.
Overall? No.
Yes, sir.
Did you at one point become aware that Kaylee Anthony was missing?
It wasn't until mid-July where I received a text message.
Okay. From whom did you receive a text message?
It was from her cell phone.
And what did that text message say?
That Kaylee had been missing for 30 days. That's about it.
Did you ever receive a call from any member of the Anthony family?
Shortly after that text message, I received one from her brother asking if I had any information.
The question calls for a yes or no answer.
Yes, sir.
Do you know Lee Anthony?
Not very well.
Okay. Did you ever hear from the defendant on July 16th of 2008?
I received a a phone call from the corrections facility. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's approach the sidebar, please. You may proceed.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would withdraw the last question, and I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you very much.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Stutz.
Good afternoon.
Did you advise law enforcement that Casey wouldn't like to drink and go out because she didn't want to leave her child with her mother and her father?
Your Honor, beyond the scope of the direct examination.
Overruled. Overruled. You can ask the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Did you advise law enforcement that Casey didn't like to go out too much or drink all that much because she didn't like to leave her child with her mother or father?
Yes.
Okay. And you've known Casey for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
And you got to see Casey and Kaylee interact quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
And did you see Kaylee's affection towards Casey?
Yes, sir.
And describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how Kaylee would react around her mother.
Very loving and very wanting to interact with mom and everything like that.
And did you ever see Kaylee neglected in any way?
No, sir.
Did you ever see Casey punish or torture Kaylee in any way?
No, sir.
And did Kaylee's affection towards Casey appear genuine?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you saw quite a bit of love between the two of them.
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Any more redirect?
No, sir.
May the witness be excused.
As far as the State is concerned, yes, sir.
Defense? Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Thank you, sir.
Jury, do you need a slight break? Okay. Huh? Okay. State may call in the next witness.
Thank you, Judge. Today we call Matthew Crisp.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Matthew Crisp, MATTHEWERISP.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Crisp, how old are you?
I'm 24.
You working?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
Residential property management.
What does that mean?
It's a little bit different from what I used to do as far as the overall day-to-day basis, but typically helping people find apartments.
All right. What were you employed back in June of 2008?
Pardon?
Were you employed in June of 2008?
Correct.
What were you doing in June of 2008?
Similar line of work.
All right. Where were you working at that time?
Crane's Landing Apartments in Winter Park.
Sir, do you know Casey Anthony?
I do.
How long have you known her?
2002, I'd say.
From 2002 until 2008, did you keep in regular contact?
Sometimes more than others, but yes.
Did you have any contact with her in June of 2008?
Yes.
Where did you have that contact?
Could you be more specific?
Where did you see her?
Originally, it was a phone call. Actual face-to-face would have been in the leasing office of said employment.
All right. You spoke with her on the phone?
Initially, yes.
Okay. Was that the same day that you saw her? Or
correct.
Previous?
Same day.
All right. You recognized her voice on the phone?
Not the phone number, and I had to ask who it was, but yes, I did.
All right. When you spoke with her on the phone, what did she tell you?
That her then boyfriend was looking for an apartment and wanted to know if I was still in that same line of...
Slow down, sir.
Sorry. Her then boyfriend was looking for an apartment and wanted to know if I was still in that same line of work, and if so, if they could come take a look at the apartments.
All right. Now, was this June 19th?
I believe it was 17th, but it could have been the 19th. I'm not sure.
It was mid-June.
It was mid-June. I'd have to refer to my statement to the exact date.
Some boyfriend is looking for it. That has nothing to do with this case.
Relevancy, Mr. George?
Your Honor,
Boyfriend looking for apartment?
Again, Your Honor, it is her. It's her state of mind. Everything that this woman did between
Boyfriend looking for an apartment.
May I ask a couple follow-up questions, Judge? That will make this relevant.
Proceed.
After that phone call, sir, did you see Casey Anthony?
Same day, correct.
Okay. When you saw Casey Anthony, did you also meet her boyfriend?
That is correct.
Where did you meet both of them?
In the leasing office of the apartment complex.
And you believe this was either June 19th or June 17th?
Correct.
All right. When you saw the defendant at the Crane's Roost apartment complex on June 17th?
17th.
I'm sorry?
17th.
Okay, of 2008. Did she at that time tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Or had been kidnapped?
No.
Or that she was looking for her?
Negative.
Or that she needed help in finding her?
No.
Or in any way that she was in any type of distress or trouble?
No.
Can you tell this jury that when you first saw her at Crane's Landing, thank you, what her demeanor was?
Joyful, exuberant, happy.
Overruled.
It had been some time since I'd seen her. She was happy.
Okay. Did you show her an apartment?
Negative.
Why?
Because she did not have her identification on her. That's a rule of thumb for the business.
All right. Did you show anyone an apartment?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was that the boyfriend? After showing her boyfriend the apartment, did you have any other contact with Casey Anthony on that day?
Not to my recollection.
All right. Did you see her any more in the month of June of 2008?
Not to my recollection.
Did you see her in July of 2008?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury when that was?
It was the 7th of July.
Okay. And where did you see Casey Anthony on the 7th of July?
I received a phone call asking about lunch. I met her at Subway for lunch.
Okay. She called you?
Correct.
What Subway did you meet her at?
University and Goldenrod, the location in the Target Plaza.
Did she bring anyone with her?
No, sir.
Just the two of you?
Yes, sir.
Did you have lunch?
Yes, sir.
Did she talk about her daughter?
It was mentioned. I asked where she was,
Okay.
how things were going, that sort of thing.
When you asked her how Kaylee was, what was her response?
That she was in Sanford on a play date with one of her girlfriends who also had a child.
Did she give you any more information about where Kaylee was other than on a play date?
No, sir.
Was it your understanding during this time period that the defendant had a job?
I believe so, and transitioning, if I could recall the conversation correctly. But I don't remember. This was a long time ago.
Okay. When you saw her on July 7th of 2008 at the Subway, how would you describe her demeanor to the jury?
Very similar to that of the prior incident. Very happy, light conversation, typical. How have you been? How are things going?
And you were given no indication that there was anything wrong?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, Judge, may I ask another question?
You may.
Sir, do you remember giving an interview with law enforcement on July 17th of 2008?
On July 17th? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that was with a Detective Lee?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember or do you recall Detective Lee asking you specifically on what date it was that you met the defendant and Tony Lazaro at the Cranes Landing Apartments?
I do.
Do you remember what you told him?
As of right now, I do not.
Okay.
I believe it was the 17th. They're all written down on the documents. So
It's okay. If you saw a transcript of your interview, would that help refresh your recollection?
yes, sir, definitely.
Thank you. Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Counsel, referring to page 719. Would be page 719, line 7.
I apologize. I'm going.
Just read it to yourself for a moment and let the train pass. Yeah. Just hold up for a minute. Just read it to yourself, sir. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, have you had the opportunity to review that transcript?
That's correct, sir.
After reviewing the transcript, can you tell the jury when it was that you met Casey Anthony and her boyfriend at the Cranes Landing Apartments?
Correct. That date would be June 19th, and as I stated, it would be documented on the guest card that I filled out that initial day as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Okay, you may retrieve the document.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir. Let me take this stuff away.
Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Now
sir?
I'm confused, but that happens more than once a day.
I can
Did
understand.
you
that. I
ever meet
apologize.
the child, Kaylee?
Pardon?
Did you meet Kaylee?
Yes.
And when you met her, where was she?
I I may have met her more than once. I don't recall.
Did you ever see that child appear to be abused?
Of the times I've seen her, no.
Mistreated in any way?
Again, of the times I've seen her, no.
Unhappy in any capacity at all?
Again, of the times I've seen her, no.
Well, you don't really know anything about this, the charges in this case at all, do you?
I'm sorry?
You don't know anything about how this child died.
That's an open-ended question, sir. What is it you're asking me?
Do you know how this child died?
I do not.
Do you know where she died?
I do not.
Do you know when she died?
I do not.
Thank you very much.
All right. May the witness be excused.
As far as the state is concerned, yes, sir.
Defense? Thank you, sir. You may be excused. Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to let you go for the evening. The time is now approximately 14 minutes to the hour of 5. Please remember my previous admonitions, and I hope you have a good evening. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll take a brief recess for the attorneys to refresh themselves. Okay, here's a list of DVDs that they brought with them that they want to watch to help pass the time away, besides the 200 and some odd ones that they do have. And I need an answer on these by in the morning. Just 2 feet side. Pardon? I need an answer in the morning. Okay, there were some matters y'all wanted to take up. In just a second, I need to leave me a copy so I won't forget in the morning. The second one is a series of DVDs they've asked that their family bring them, so you should have those. Okay? The first one starts with Dark Knight, High Fidelity. Then there's a second request to watch another group of videos and some TV series. Should be 2. Do you have those? Then you need to switch them up. You got 2 of the same thing too, Mr. Baez? Yes, sir. Okay. That's my fault. Yeah, it's kind of hard to object to Cary Grant and Irene Dunn.
I would object to Team America just calling.
Now, the only one, well, William Powell and Carol Lombard, My Man Godfrey. Yes. I just said the next one I mentioned was William Powell and Carol Lombard, My Man Godfrey. Okay. If nobody has any issues, then I will approve them. All right. Y'all said y'all had some additional matters you wanted to bring up.
The first issue we have filed earlier this week, a new Brady motion. I have spoken, though briefly, with Ms. Drain Burdick about that, so she was going to find out if they have any response to it. As far as I know, let me know, and we can do that. I do want to, for you though, I do want to renew the motion that we previously filed and you denied, requesting a copy of the grand jury testimony of George Anthony. As I recall, you did not deny it with prejudice. You denied it, waiting to see if there'd be a sufficient predicate. Well, Mr. Anthony has testified, and he's testified twice so far in 3 days of trial. And I believe that based on the impeachments that have occurred, or that I view as impeachments, I'd ask the court to reconsider that, making available to both sides the grand jury testimony. Of course, it comes as no surprise to the prosecution because they were there. And we've not been allowed to see what his prior sworn testimony was to the grand jury. So, based on the motion previously filed, I'm renewing that and requesting that you make it available to us. It would not be perhaps most professional to argue this next case without the state having seen the case that we just got produced this afternoon, so we'll bring it up at another time. I have argued to you at sidebar and with the objections done that all of this line of questioning of all these series of friends about Casey's failure to be upset or anything wrong and so forth is another word for showing remorse. As a matter of law, it's not proper. I can tell you that you also recognize as quite persuasive Brother Eaton's, Judge Eaton, retired teaching book on conducting capital crimes, page 127 and 128. I can refer you to. It's very clear, Judge, that it is improper to argue absence of remorse, and I know you know that, of course, in penalty phase. But so I was curious. Well, wait a minute. It's no more right in the guilt phase, and the case law that I just produced says that as far as the Supreme Court case of Randolph versus State. We can argue that tomorrow morning if you prefer. I realize I just gave it to them, and I don't need to play that way. The fact of the matter is that all of these questions from all of these friends going into whether she was happy or unhappy or how she looked and no changes and so forth, repeated objections and overruled, I think that it's improper, and give a chance to review on that, and I will be moving for a mistrial on the cumulative effect of all of those. So that's all I can say at this time.
State prepared to argue that now. They want to wait to.
We can argue it now. Having listened to the last part, what was the first motion again? I'm not as old as you, but I'm getting there.
Let's take the lack of remorse argument based upon the Randolph case.
The case that I've been handed, at least based upon the summary, appears to indicate that the holding is that references to defendant's remorse, let's see, it says neither the juror's reference to brutal murder nor the prosecutor's guilt-based question about defendant's remorse necessitated a mistrial. That would seem to indicate that that is not grounds for mistrial. Again, I haven't just read the head notes. I would comment, however, that the evidence in this case is relevant to establish, to rebut the defendant's initial Phase 1 claim, or Claim 1, that which will come up in this case at a later time, that the victim in this case was kidnapped or taken from her against her will. Both the first version and the second version. It is also relevant to rebut the defendant's sort of 3.0 version, which I should say the defense counsel's version, that this child died by accident. Clearly, the evidence of the defendant's demeanor after this period of time and the day after and for 31 days after that are certainly relevant to establish and rebut the fact that this child died as a result of an accidental drowning. The actions are completely and entirely inconsistent with that, and are relevant to show that inconsistency that the jury can find. And I believe that it's not showing lack of remorse. It may indicate lack of remorse as an aside, but its relevance is to show, to rebut the defendant's claims about, the various claims about what happened to her daughter.
Counsel may be right. I can't say rebut and they should have saved it for a rebuttal case, not their case in chief. They've argued repeatedly that it's a state of mind exception or a consciousness of guilt, and that's wrong. Because the charges here, counts 1, 2, and 3, deal with an allegation of crime committed upon the death of the child. Actions thereafter are not relevant unless they are subject to no other interpretation. We filed a memo on that. The bottom line is, if there was evidence of flight, it would come in. We know that. In fact, you get a flight instruction. If there's evidence of destruction of evidence as to guilt, that'd be admissible. Failure to respond in what someone else says is the normal way to be expected. It's not properly admissible as to state of mind, consciousness of guilt, and therefore it's not admissible. And now, in addition to that, as counsel acknowledges, it could well be dealing with remorse. It violates the rule in Randolph versus, and for the record, that's Florida Supreme Court, dated May 3rd, 1990, found at 562 Southern 2nd, 331. The particular references on that subject matter of that case are at page 7 and 8 of the copy that I provided the court.
Well, let me ask the state a very pointed question. Is the evidence being offered to show a lack of remorse?
No, sir.
Well, if it is, then it's not admissible, and we got a problem.
It is not.
Well, I'm just asking you since you
Sure.
made that statement. It may indicate a lack of remorse as an aside.
Correct. It could. That's not the reason it's being offered. Whether someone would interpret it as showing lack of remorse is up to them, but that's not the reason it's being offered.
Well,
and it won't be argued.
anything else, folks? Okay. The case is quite clear. You can't offer evidence of lack of remorse. I have not taken that to be lack of remorse. It shows her conduct, how she acted after these so-called tragic events. Even though opening statements is just what it is, opening statements and not evidence, the defense has laid out the proposition of the theory of defense that the victim in this case may have drowned, and then the body was disposed of by Mr. Anthony, allegedly, although we haven't gotten any proof of that at this stage. But it is relevant to show her conduct, and the jury can draw from it, but it is not admissible to show lack of remorse, so the court will stand behind its previous rulings. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about now? You want to deal with the grand jury testimony?
Yes, sir. That was the other issue that I was.
Now you want to deal with that in the morning?
Your Honor, we can deal with it now. I believe that the proper procedure at this point would be for the court to review the grand jury testimony to make a determination in camera whether there is anything exculpatory or impeaching, and I believe that's what the court can do.
Okay. Then I will ask the clerk to find out which court reporter took down the grand jury testimony of Mr. Anthony. Transmit that to the court reporting supervisor, and they are to prepare me a in-camera transcript that will be delivered to me of Mr. Anthony's grand jury testimony, and I will review his testimony.
We already have a transcript.
You do?
And we will provide it to you. Yes, we had some years ago requested a transcript to review for possible for that purpose.
I don't remember.
We'll provide it to you. Bring it tomorrow.
Then bring it to me tomorrow.
Yes. We do have a motion in limine. We were going to file it in writing tomorrow morning. It has to do with
in limine basically asking the court to require the defendant to proffer any questions they're going to ask of any witness that seek to elicit hearsay statements of the defendant, so we don't have questions, objections, and but we can either, we're going to file it in writing, but the defense wants to deal with it now, we can deal with it now.
You want to deal with it now? You want to deal with it in the morning at 8:30? Turn your speaker on, please.
This is a motion in limine in the middle of trial. I don't know if, I'm certain it's past your deadline.
It's based upon certain conduct of counsel. We'll be happy to put it in writing and make it clear and concise, but it's based upon what's going on in the trial.
File your motion, and I'll determine whether it's timely or untimely, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me hear the defense's position and the state's position about working Monday. Orange County government, as far as the building is concerned, has cleared it in terms of opening the building and the costs associated with that. There is another major issue in terms of a budgetary problem for the sheriff's department, though, in terms of union contracts and overtime that will affect their budget dollars that I'm taking in consideration. And I need to know what the defense's position is, and then, or the state, either one who wants to go first.
This old veteran doesn't want to work on Monday. For 47 years since I came back from Far East, I celebrate it every year.
I don't want to say I'm old, Your Honor.
You don't. I know what you're going to say. State.
We're trying to determine whether or not we could get witnesses. I expect that the testimony next week will involve many of the law enforcement officers with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Right now, we don't have answers as to their availability. I don't think that there would be a problem, but there's always a possibility that people have made plans for the holiday.
Well, most people have made plans for the holidays. The original schedule that I had given you was the schedule that you would be off on Memorial Day, but you would be working Saturday from 9 to 1. At this point in time, I really don't see a compelling reason to work on Monday. But what I will be asking for at the close of business next week, Friday, but not Saturday, since you will be working Saturday, is I'm going to ask you in terms of your best guesstimate at that time, when do you think you'll be wrapping up? Okay, anything else we need to take up?
Yes, only that there are some.
Put your speaker on.
There's only some, I think there's some orders that we've been waiting to be signed with UJA.
Well, she's been out for the last 2 days because of certain family issues. I asked Ms. Sims to bring me those things today. So if you have them, I will
first thing in the morning, Judge.
Bring them in the morning and I'll take a look at them. The only one that I have seen that's on my desk, like I've been in my office all day, but I haven't, was a motion for transcription.
Yes,
I'll have it all first thing in the morning.
Now, I did sign an order giving you an additional 100 hours. You had requested 200, but I cut it down to 100 for additional investigative hours. I signed that. Is there anything else besides those two?
Just JAC stuff. That's really the whole thing.
Like what?
Transcripts. And Dr. Crop.
Bring me the thing on Dr. Crop. The only thing I'm going to say about Dr. Crop, let me look at it, and as long as there are JAC rates and he's not asking anything outrageous and is consistent with JAC rates, I don't see any problem, but I just need to see it.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, folks?
Nothing further.
Okay, we'll be in recess. Are you going to take up the motion in limited tomorrow at 8:30? Then we'll be in recess to 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Well, we told, if I haven't.
That they're, or what
Well,
they're relying on.
You need to. It's no big secret. We've been talking about it off and on the entire day.
Mr. Lazaro disappeared, or we never got him to proffer?
You need to make sure he comes back tomorrow so he can proffer his testimony sometime tomorrow. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Baez. How long do you think the proffer will take, since it's just going to be a proffer for purposes of the record?
30 seconds, Judge. Really brief.
Okay. Well, you want to do it now, you want to do it in the morning?
We can do it now. I don't expect it to take long.
Okay, let's bring him in. Now, to the press. The defense has indicated that they don't want to do any interviews. And they claim that some people are hounding them about interviews. I have no authority over you on public property. But we have designated interview zones if folks want to participate in interview zones. Please try to respect their right not to give interviews if they don't want to. But as I told the defense, when you're on public property, you're on public property. And I have no control over the sidewalks of the city of Orlando, just the courthouse proper. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, Mr. Lazario is here. Mr. Lazario is still under oath. Mr. Baez, you may go ahead and proffer the testimony that you wanted to give. You may proceed, sir.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Lazaro.
Afternoon.
I want to ask you a question in reference to the shared secrets that we had discussed earlier.
Sure.
With your prior testimony. Was the secret that Casey had shared with you that she had been abused by her father?
No.
What was the secret that she had shared with you?
Lee Anthony tried to sexually abuse her.
Okay. And did she ever discuss in reference to, well, let me ask you this. What was your response to Lee Anthony trying to touch her?
Shocked.
What did you do, or what did you say to her?
I don't remember. It's definitely comforting, though.
And did you kind of brush off the conversation?
If anything, I probably tried to quickly change the subject so she wouldn't be dwelling on it. And I can't remember the exact how it happened, but I do recall her mentioning it. And from my personality, knowing myself, that's what I would be doing, trying to change the subject to get her mind off of it.
And is that part, in fact, because you really don't know how to deal with something like that?
Correct.
Okay. If I can have just a moment. We're going to get the transcripts, but I want to ask you if you recall any discussions with Casey in reference to the abuse by her father.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what clarify that more would be. I do recall her bringing up being disciplined by her father, but I don't recall what actually happened. From my knowledge, it seemed like discipline to me.
But do you recall well, I'll need the transcript for this, but can you recall for certain that it wasn't because that it was sexual abuse versus physical abuse, or you just don't know for sure?
I just don't know for sure. Definitely was not sexual abuse. The only time someone tells me that, that's why I knew the lead thing, because that's such a substantial thing to say.
Was it a lengthy discussion or was it a short discussion?
Definitely a short discussion.
Okay. And you don't recall the details of it?
No, sir.
However, you do recall the word abuse coming up within this discussion.
I do recall the word maybe hitting.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. We're going to... Judge, we had his file outside of the... if we're getting it right now.
Okay. While you're waiting on this file, I have a couple of questions I would like to ask him. Sir, when did Miss Anthony tell you approximately about Lee Anthony's abuse?
It would be around the time that I went to New York. So either before or after, before June 30th, right around that time, or after July 5th.
Of which year, sir?
Of 2008.
With as much detail as you can recall, what did she say Lee Anthony did to her?
He tried to feel her up.
Did she say where he tried to feel her up?
On her chest.
Any place else besides on her chest?
No, sir.
Did she say what was her approximate age?
I can't recall that. Wasn't that? I can't recall. Sorry.
Okay. Did she mention whether that had been recent or whether that had been in the past when she was a child of tender years? By tender years, I mean 12 and below.
It was definitely in the past. It wasn't anything present. And I wouldn't.
But she didn't attach an age as to how old she was?
No.
Can you recall anything else she said about it?
No, sir.
Now, you said she said he tried to feel her up. Did you inquire or did she say whether or not he was successful in feeling her up?
She said it didn't happen.
It did not happen?
Yes.
So she said he made an attempt to feel her up.
Yes, sir.
Anything else that he tried to do?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, let's move on to Mr. George Anthony, her father. Would you relate to us what she said occurred in terms of abuse with Mr. Anthony, as in much detail as you can recall?
Hitting. That's all I can remember.
Okay. When you say hitting...
Hitting.
Okay. What did you take that to mean, or did she give you a more specific description of hitting?
I took it as discipline.
Okay. But did she tell you, besides use the word hitting, did she say anything else?
Not to my knowledge.
Again, did she say when this occurred? Mr. George Anthony hitting her
As a child.
as a child. Anything else she said that you can recall?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Byers.
Mr. Lazaro, do you remember we conducted a deposition over the phone?
Sure.
Okay. And do you recall me asking you the following question, page 30, line 13 through 17? So you don't know if it's physical? Yes.
Turn on your microphone to the court reporter.
This is Wheeling. Second deposition, sorry. So you don't know if it's physical or sexual, you just don't recall. And your answer was, I just don't recall. It could have been. Honestly, it would have been much better to do this at that time. Do you recall giving that answer?
Yes.
And
Which Anthony are you referring to with that line of questioning, Mr. George Anthony or Mr. Lee Anthony?
that was in reference to George Anthony, was it not? Okay. Yes, page 30.
That was Mr. George Anthony?
Yes.
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Now, sir, were you referring to that your deposition took place in 2011, February of 2011, as opposed to you being asked these questions in 2008?
I was referring to it would be easier if it was asked those questions probably closer to the time that I would know that.
And that's why you simply just can't recall whether it was physical or sexual, only that you do remember as of now hitting.
Of anything, any kind of abuse. That's why I was making that comment then.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge, or no further information to proffer.
Stated in cross-examination on the proffer.
No, sir.
May Mr. Lazario be excused from the state.
For the night, yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. For the night, Mr. Lazario.
Thank you, Your
Thank
Honor.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, anything else for the good of the order before we recess for the evening? On behalf of the state of Florida, on behalf of the defense, okay, we'll be in recess to 8:30 tomorrow morning.